Now we've got adequate amount of vibrations. Have you ever watched a big heavy-duty truck pull into a parking lot? Literally, the concrete or the blacktop is going to settle, bounces back up. Well, when that truck is going down the highway, literally, the earth is vibrating. And what we used to do as kids, not very bright, I must say, but what we used to do as kids, we had lived out in the rural area, we had pulp trucks and milk trucks and all kinds of heavy-duty trucks. And we'd see one of these things come barreling down the road. You got off your bike, put the bike in the ditch, and laid along the shoulder of the road, spread out, and this vibration, and your innards would just vibrate all over the place. Gave you a sensation you don't normally get. I mean, that worked until one stopped and reported us to my mother. That was the end of that noise. But vibrations are common in this thing. And if you don't believe me, go lay down, not on the road, next to the road. But wait until it freezes. It's even better then. But you really got this beautiful vibration. And just think of this being vibrated by, this becomes a roadway. Cars traveling back and forth, this bounces up and down. These particles are going to move down that slope at an accelerated rate. And we find that this works best, obviously, in sediment and not bedrock. So clay, sand, silts, whatever. Not in rock units, but in sediment. In northern Wisconsin, and again, we didn't have a whole lot to do sometimes. What we've seen occurring happens elsewhere, but this happened in my neighborhood. There was a relatively steep clay bank. Now this angle is known as the angle of repose. The angle of repose is supposed to be an angle of stability. But when nature works, it provides an angle where sediments are stable. Now the angle of repose can be compromised. Let's shove a road bed in here. We'll take everything out of here. We have a road bed cut in here. Well, we've changed the angle now, and we're going to increase the rate of mass wasting up here. The vibrations from the automobiles will also affect the movement of material. This is called undercutting. And we undercut by human activity, and undercutting takes place by streams, by wave action on shorelines. So undercutting is a normal activity, and it destabilizes the slope and causes more mass wasting. Well, here in northern Wisconsin, we have this massive layer of clay. We have this clay bank being undercut, and we have Grandma buried on top of the hill. I'm not quite sure why we insist on burying people on top of the hill, but when you look at your cemeteries, many of them are prime locations. I don't know if that's an entrance point to a greater beyond or what it is. But anyway, over the years, with this mass wasting, Grandma's taking a voyage. And one spring day, and our school bus used to go through here. One afternoon after heavy rain, they rerouted the school bus because Grandma had made her reappearance onto the side of the hill. Unfortunately, and I don't know whose Grandma it was, unfortunately, the wooden casket had been broken apart by all of the shifting that taken place. So what literally came out was a broken box with this woman's head from the rest of her body, but this gray, stringy hair coming out onto the roadway. Not something we want little kids to see, so that's why they rerouted the bus. And when they found this one, they started looking around, and other grandmas and grandpas were also making the voyage down. So what they did was they anchored this with a retaining wall, and about 10 years later, the road was rerouted, and so you don't get the same type of movement here. But again, what we see here is they've undercut the slope, they've created vibrations here, and so creep gradually moves on. And anything in the top layers of the soil are going to move. If you look at many cemeteries, you see headstones that are tilted or they're flat, and you blame people like James or Andrew here for running around knocking over headstones. But it's typically creep moving the stones and resulting in that type of activity.
You got about 5 minutes.
Okay, so surface creep. Surface creep does more damage in Wisconsin than any other type of mass waste. Slow flow, solifluction, SOLIFLUCTION. Permafrost is necessary for this type of mass wasting. Or this way, 90+% of solifluction occurs in permafrost areas. Permafrost is when the ground is permanently frozen summer, spring, fall, and winter. And if we have an area of permafrost on a slope, in the summer season, the upper layers may begin to thaw out. This is permanently frozen. In the spring and fall, you go through a cycle of freeze, thaw, and so consequently, physical weathering breaking apart rock units in this zone. The snow melts in this zone, but the snow can't drift down, liquid can't drift through the permafrost. Permanently frozen soil is impermeable. So it's trapped up here. So you have this super saturated soup of sediment and water. And so this gradually flows out the slope. Meters per year maximum. Literally very, very slow motion. And again, if you're not in a permafrost area, solifluction is not going to be an issue. And with that happy note, we've got absolute truth. But we got deficit and destruction of gas and mineral.